State Representative Taki Chan of Quincy is joining us to chat about how this coronavirus crisis is impacting him and his district and at the state level as well. So Taki, great to see you, and thanks for spending some time with us. Appreciate it.
Well, great to see you, Joe. It's good for everybody to know what the inside of our home looks like.
That's right. We're all getting a little insight into people's personal lives through these video chats. But, you know, it's great that we can still communicate at least through this time, certainly, and for you to communicate with your constituents, too. What are you hearing from your district? What are folks concerned about? How are they dealing with this?
Well, I think there's a few concerns going on. Obviously, the complication is we can't see each other in person. I'm a people business, so this has been kind of a challenge for myself and my office. A lot of the issues we're hearing about largely revolves around unemployment claims. It's if you watch the news, everybody knows the filings coming very heavily, and processing the information does take time. It is a manpower driven business, and as a result, trying to get these things done timely. People have been calling us to have it expedited. There's a website problem. We can't get phone calls back. We do reach out to DUA, but we're very conscious of the fact that they're overwhelmed. So we're being very patient. I ask my constituents to be very patient, and I do know that there's a high need right now. The other one I've been discovering is food security. Right now, as you are aware, the senior housing complexes have locked down their buildings to shelter people in place, as well as people with disabilities or immune compromised are having trouble leaving their homes. So, working with QCAP and the YMCA's Germantown Food Pantry, as well as Interfaith Social Services, we found out that Interfaith is doing some food deliveries through Salvation Army and other groups. And, I think it's also trying to get more resources out there. When we have economic crises, a lot of people don't think about the social services available. And as a result, they don't know where to go. And as we move deep into this, it's going to be much more important. And my mom has the radio in the background. Hey, Ma, can you turn that down? I need to
another danger of teleconferencing.
Yeah, it's a new way of life we're all living where, your ability to work is changed. And I don't like to work at home. Work follows me all the time through my phone, whether it be at home, at the office, on vacation. It's unavoidable. So and I think a lot of people also who don't work from home, one of the stress relief is home. So when you actually have to follow your work home with you, and then you have to deal with the day-to-day life with your family and your kids and, house issues, plus the stresses of the COVID-19, plus the, financial burdens that people are facing. I do understand it. The stress of buildup is quite high, and accessing human resources in need is a lot of things people are going to be doing for the first time.
Sure. Are you getting any guidance from the feds, Taki, about the stimulus money that's coming into the state and how that might be utilized?
We did talk to Senator Warren and Senator Markey, and the $2.2 trillion stimulus bill has quite a few things in it that affect us. For example, the state is getting $1 billion straight up to assist us in the COVID-19. We qualify for FEMA money associated with this as well, which has a housing homelessness assistance program as part of that. We're getting a portion of the money for the fishing industry. $300 million have been set aside for the fishing industry. We represent over 40% of the fishing industry in this region, so we should get a substantial amount of that funds as well. The expansion of unemployment benefits to include people that are independent contractors, people who are self-employed, people who are on the job for the first week, and so forth, has been greatly expanded. So I tell people, even though the website's having challenge, the phone calls are having challenge, please do try to apply. You don't know if you're going to be able to benefit a lot. You've seen in the news a lot about the SBA program and the so-called PPP, to meet payroll. If you are using your money from the state, federal government via the federal SBA and the state SBA administering the program, and using it for payroll this cycle, and you don't lay anyone off, that becomes grant money as opposed to loan money. You can loan up to I believe 2019 February payroll amounts plus 25%. So it applies to not-for-profits organizations, small not-for-profits and small businesses. And that's significant. I think people forget about not-for-profits and their employment to our economy, and the fact that it's very hard to fundraise. We've hit the spring period. A lot of your major fundraisers go off, the dinners, the social events. And as this continues on to the spring, and I suspect, right through the summer in terms of maintaining a higher standards of health awareness and the planning process for fundraisers for not-for-profits, it's going to be severely hampered all spring, summer, and perhaps into the fall. So this payroll assistance program is crucial for them as well. We're getting some money specifically for COVID-19 medical supplies that the state's been purchasing, the federal government's been purchasing. As I think you're aware of, the supply issue is more than a money issue. We can get money from the feds, and the state's been pumping money in as well. But it's really about whether or not we can find it at the moment. Governor Baker, brilliant move, quite frankly, on cooperating and collaborating with the New England Patriots, the People's Republic of China Embassy, and working with a corporation in Shenzhen, China, to get 1 million plus masks to Massachusetts was just sheer brilliance. So, Massachusetts is thinking outside the box, and our partners in the federal government, continue to be looking at getting us healthcare-related funds. There's direct grants to our local hospitals. We're still looking at putting more money to community health centers. So there's a lot going on in terms of billions of dollars. The conversation with both senators has shown that we're probably going to look at another major stimulus package from the federal government, probably later into the summertime as this thing continues to unfold among all of us. As needs come up, they're going to have to respond, and we're going to be in communication with them about things we hear. For example, I brought to Senator Warren's attention SNAP benefits, or as many people may know as food stamps. With this many people going on to unemployment and for an extended period, we don't have enough funding for the SNAP program. And that is largely a federally funded program as well. So I can see a massive expansion where, like I said earlier, was food security. And as people move forward, they're going to realize more needs. As they realize more needs, government's going to have to respond. But a positive that's non-COVID related is that Senator Markey and Senator Warren and Congressman Lynch was able to get $2 million in FEMA money for the seawalls in Adams Shore and House Neck.
Yes, so I saw that.
Yeah, not a COVID-related issue, and we're
Right.
going to do social media on our front and putting the news out. But the government is functioning beyond COVID-19. So that's great news for the city of Quincy and the residents in House Neck and Adams Shore, as well as great work from Mayor Koch and Councilor McCarthy on working together and securing those funds. So yes, there's $2.2 trillion nationwide from the federal government on COVID-19, but on a separate front, FEMA has been able to get us direct grants for seawall. So, life hasn't been suspended. We just have to change how we do business.
Yeah. How will this impact the state budgetary process this year, Techie?
Well, we have a lot of challenges. I don't think people realize we can't vote from home. Under the state constitution, there's a whole provision regarding assembly of the legislature, and it means a physical presence. So to achieve a quorum, just like you do in municipal government, the legislative body has to have 50% plus one to conduct business in the same physical space. There's some questions whether or not how the Constitution was not designed for a pandemic. So, we've operated through war periods, natural disasters. As long as we can gather. Now, we don't actually have to gather at the State House. We just have to achieve a quorum by having more than half of us in one spot. The problem, of course, is where. You think about it, 160 people plus a 12-foot radius around us for social distancing. That means everyone needs someone in the area of, a circle around us. That space looks pretty crazy when you think about it. Once you put it together, plus if you're going to debate, we need an audio system of some form, plus public has to be able to see us, which means they have the social distance, and then obviously we can do live streaming in addition or in lieu of some of the public access components, plus the press has a right to access us. Plus, you obviously have ability to access in person regarding advocating for your issues during the session. So I think people don't always fully appreciate the complexity of this, and House, Senate, and Governor's office are trying to work through the constitutional issues. So that's our first barrier. Public hearings is the other problem. As the chair of Consumer Protection Professional Licensure, working with my co-chair, Paul Feeney, the senator, we also want to ensure the public has a right to see us hold a public hearing. Obviously, video is great, but if you have an urge to come say something, you may not get an email in time or may not get a phone call in time. You have a right to stand before the committee and make your case to us for or against anything that comes over the committee. And my committee is getting some late file bills here and there as it goes through. But obviously, moving COVID-19 legislation has been a priority, and we've been doing an informal session by unanimous consent. So the informal sessions by law occur every 72 hours, even when we're not in formal session. And anyone can object. So one person stands up, objects, and the bill stops. So right now we're moving only non-controversial issues, all of which all have been COVID-19 related. No one's going to object to emergency legislation regarding things like unemployment, moving the tax date to July 15th, and things like that. So we're getting business done, but it's been more challenging. We're bringing email updates, we're having conference calls with House leadership, but it's not the same as being in the room together. And you can voice your concerns now through a phone. You may have to think a few more minutes before you can voice your concern. It's just very different.
Yeah.
So we do want to maintain all that transparency. Now, on the budget, this becomes a bit of a challenge. We're waiting to get new forecast updates by economists and administration and finance. Obviously, the economy has now shifted. Our budget numbers from March are not a projection anymore because March numbers don't matter.
Right.
Everything after March 31st is going to be the real new benchmark. And two things are kind of happening at once. One is the fact that we pushed our tax filing date to July 15th. Fiscal year ends June 30th, which means that for fiscal year 20, we're not going to see the majority of our revenue in fiscal year 20. So we do have a kind of an accounting problem. We're accepting tax money after the end of the fiscal year, which means it's hard to apply money that is in the next fiscal year to the past fiscal year. And we're going to have to figure out how to float money, for lack of a better term, for April to June 30th. I don't know what the plan is yet. I mean, we could do short-term borrowing. Interest rates are low. We do have a rainy day fund.
Yeah, quite a substantial one, too.
It is, but it's only $3.5 billion, which is very substantial.
Yeah.
But 3 months is a long time to cover.
Okay.
And there's a downward impact, right? So we have to pay bills. I mean, thankfully, there's been non-snow year. So not a lot of snow removal that needs to be done in terms of the state component, but contractors need to get paid. They've been working during the last half year. Contracts have to be paid off. Cities and towns are waiting for their local aid. Chapter 70, unrestricted local assistance, local grant funds. Those are going to have to be paid. And even that, for example, the Department of Environmental Protection has issued an opening for people to apply for grants, municipal grants again. So there's a lot of other programs going on in the state that's still moving forward on new growth. By law, these grant programs have to be administered. Mass Cultural Council, has had a complete upheaval regarding the operations because, again, there's no gatherings. So, and those programs to be funded also. So, I mean, yes, healthcare is a huge priority, but all these other part of government, we are still moving on. We do want to give people more time to file their taxes, but people should be aware that by allowing the time to the same as the feds in July, there is an impact on us today. And, working with our colleagues in the legislature, we're going to have to make some tough choices and some creative thinking about how we're going to get through the last 3 or so months in the fiscal year.
Sure. You mentioned your committeemanship of the Professional Licensure Committee. How is that overseeing things like scamming and price gouging and concerns like that during this pandemic?
Yes. Myself and the committee staff has been keeping an eye on the news and looking at social media and websites and so forth about the different issues coming up. And let me warn people of some scams. During this time of year, the IRS scam is the one I continuously beat the drum on. where they target especially people who are lower income, non-English speaking, and senior citizens, that if you're late in your taxes, you're going to go to jail. There's also the scam going around, which happens on my phone, that if you're an immigrant, you will be deported if you don't get paid off, essentially, ICE, which is completely false. It is in multiple languages, so if you know anybody that hears about an ICE issue, that you're going to have to pay the government to stay in the country, that is also a scam. There's also a slowly but steady of COVID-19 related scams regarding healthcare benefits, unemployment benefits, government benefits. We will properly identify ourselves, and if you have a concern regarding a phone call made to you, obviously call any legislator's office, myself, or anyone you're comfortable with, and get verification on that if you're uncomfortable. The census does not call you yet. We are going to be calling you in the census. This is the one exception to rule about scams. We will be calling folks at some point as we get into the early part of the summer. You should have received no less than 3 mailings at this point at your home. I know people are home and you need to do something. Please remember to open those census envelopes. It is online this year. You're on your phone, on the computer. And it takes less than 10 minutes. I did it in about 5, actually.
Yeah, there's just 9 questions, basically. Yeah.
9 simple questions, easy to figure out, and it's everybody that's in your home on April 1st. That includes newborn children. That includes your grandparents if they're living with you. If you have grandparents or others that need help, it's a code on the census form. They can read you the code. They can help your grandparents get it done online. You look at my Facebook site and scroll, because there's a whole lot of information on my Facebook, but there's a link regarding how we're doing in census reporting in aggregate data. Quincy's actually below average right now.
Yeah.
And that's extremely troubling. We need to get our numbers up. And, it affects, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of $1 million in federal funds. It affects the state funding formulas. It projects out our birth rates. It projects out our senior citizens rate and how it's going to affect mass health. So good data will get us ability to start projecting healthcare needs for the next decade, as well as education needs on the other side. One of the things I think people are going to miss it on is WCVB News editorial actually pointed out to me, the college kids are not here.
Right.
So as a result, it's residency on April 1st where you physically are, is where you fill the census form. And we've lost all the college kids of Long North and the graduate students.
Yeah.
So it includes places like Eastern National College, right? Those students would be filing census April 1st at the dormitories.
Right.
Well, they're not. Same thing in the entire Boston, Cambridge region, Worcester, UMass Medical, UMass Amherst out west, UMass Lowell up in that area, southeastern Mass. You got UMass Dartmouth and all the schools down there. So now it's become even more critical that we do not account because we've lost a substantial part of our population, which is going to have a negative impact on our census numbers, and perhaps we may lose a congressional district. The second thing I want to remind folks is you have to be a resident here. You don't have to be a voter. You don't have to be a U.S. citizen, naturalized U.S. citizen, or current resident card holder. People feel like that if they're, like for example, here in a work study, or I'm saying a work permit or a student permit, that you don't have to fill a census form. No, you have absolutely the right to do that because you're a physical presence. The Constitution does not state legal status. You just have to be physically a resident of Massachusetts. So like the homeless population is concerned because they don't have conventional addresses.
Right.
We need to do that. People with disabilities who have severe disabilities, we need assistance on doing that. People with Alzheimer's, if you have a family member with memory loss issues, I strongly advise that you please help them fill out their census forms. It is actually crucial to do so. So, there's a lot of myths going on. And it is extremely important. And I'd like to tell people this is the one time everybody gets a voice in the United States. It is the one mechanism the founding fathers ensured that every person gets a voice once every 10 years.
Yeah, it's probably not on the top of people's minds at this current time, but as you mentioned, it's extremely important. It has long-lasting impacts. So, certainly take us just a short time out and fill it out and send it in. It's free and it's confidential and that's easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And this continues. Getting door knockers out this summertime with the health scare, it's going to be challenging to knock on doors and asking people to open their doors right now. And
Yeah.
we don't know how long this is going to continue. And obviously, I am worried because some of the other methodologies of reaching you will be challenging.
Can we talk a little bit, Tacky, about student loans and any changes that are happening right now in the state-assisted student loan programs, or that might need to happen in the future?
Yeah, well, I'm on the student loan problem too because I got my federally backed grant. So I tell people I'm was it 2030, 2032 program is where I'm on. The end of 2032. So I am very sympathetic and understanding about student loans.
Yeah.
So the federal government has suspended the interest rates on student loans to further notice.
Okay.
So it's 0 interest right now. And then they've also suspended payments of student loans until September. If you choose to do so, you should definitely contact your student loan provider online or make a phone call and find out if they're automatically suspending or you have to put a request. But my understanding is automatic.
Okay.
But you should double check. I tell people double check anyway. Information filtering is taking some time. So what does this mean? Well, obviously, is to try to provide some financial relief for families in the short term as we try to figure out how to manage this in our finances. Secondly, if you can pay, if you still have the fiscal means to pay your student loans, I would advise you to do it. And here's the reason: it's 0 interest.
Right.
So for this time period during the crises until the feds tell you otherwise, you will be benefiting from a 0 interest loan payment, which means on the back end, it helps you on the back end regarding payments, and maybe you can accelerate your relieving your debt sooner if you have the capacity to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, a lot of people meet their needs. So combine that with the unemployment benefits coming up, plus the $600 one-time, $600 4-week payment additional on unemployment, plus the what they call the stimulus cash check.
Yes.
That we're going to give you, which is $1,200 for people making under $75,000, and it's incremental, less, going up to $99,000. Hopefully, that will give you at least some short-term assistance as everyone's trying to figure out how to manage all this next. Like I said, the federal government is looking at a future stimulus package. I don't know what it's going to look like. The state will be looking at some kind of assistance programs, but we're still in the formation stage. So that's the current situation, student loans. You got federally backed loans. Definitely contact your provider to look at what your options are. And like I said, you are financially okay. You should take a look at. Maybe this is a good time to put a little extra in.
Yeah, it's rare you get 0% financing, so take advantage of it for sure if you can. With the utility companies, Tacky, does there need to be some kind of moratorium or at least some kind of a delayed payment schedule put in place?
Yeah, there's a moratorium on utilities on shutoffs at the moment.
Okay.
So electric and gas companies will not shut off your heating, electric or heat during the cool periods, the winter period, because we don't want people to freeze while heating. The governor has told DPU worked on its own. They actually didn't have the governor. DPU independently also put a moratorium on. I suspect it will be an extension of moratorium.
Mm-hmm.
The utility companies are generally pretty good about working out payment plans regarding paying the utility bill. However, there are advocates out there to help you out. Consumer Law Foundation, the QCAP, all the different agencies out there will provide some assistance. Obviously, my office will. If you're having challenges, we can talk to utilities as well as work with DPU and trying to help people out. Every industry is aware of the situation.
Right.
We're all working our best trying to manage together. I think people need to understand it's impacting everyone from bottom up. This is not like other crises. If you look historically, most of the crises on the economy is driven by the financial industry. Overheated stock market, too many loans giving out, bad loans given out, bad investments made. 08 was obviously the financial industry making too many loans out. 03 was an overheated stock market and capital gains from the tech industry. Saving and loan scandal drove the problems in the early 90s, and you had the 87 crash. This is only the length of my lifetime. So I do remember these things. So this isn't different because it's really, the main street drives up the economy. And there's no more evidence than this as we're seeing today, that we have the highest unemployment rates since the Great Depression.
Yep.
And it is Main Street that drives the economy. And without, our small businesses and others supporting the entire economy, because they're the ones who took the loans out, they're the ones who took the payroll. These are people rotating credit with the financial industry. This time it's not the financial industry denying loans, denying rolling credit for a business, denying assistance and grants and technical help. This is businesses unable to support itself because we're closed.
Right.
So
Yeah, I know there's been a move to allow restaurants to take out, alcohol now, just to try and give them a little extra income during this time. You think that's a good move?
Well, I do have some reservations. I think everyone's thinking the same thing I am on that. But, they have an inventory problem. We did pass a law, which other states have done, to allow restaurants to sell beer and wine off-premise. There are limits, 196 ounces of beer, which is about a six-pack, if I got my math correct, and 1.5 liters of wine, which is one bottle, must be purchased with food.
Mm-hmm.
Can be delivered and can be picked up with proper verification. They said people try to help out their local restaurants if they can.
Right.
But I've been talking to my friends in the package store industries as well. If your business is in a college town, but it doesn't matter if you're a restaurant or a retailer, your business is dead.
Yep.
Obviously, if you're the casinos and the racetracks, there's nothing going on.
Right.
So it will help some folks, but I can't promise you it's going to help all folks.
Yeah.
I can promise you that. And even the package store industry, at some point, let's be honest, how much beer can you stockpile in your house? Let's think about this. I mean, there is a point where you can't put any more into your home.
Yeah.
And beer has a shelf life. Those of us who drink beer know there's a shelf life to beer, unlike spirits. You can't keep it indefinitely. And then I'll give you an example of the ripple effect of the alcohol industry, because one of the things my chairmanship oversees the alcohol industry, and I've had many conversations now with both the retailers and distributors as well as the retail restaurant guys. They don't order alcohol on demand; they order on plan.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, we're planning St. Patrick's, the marathon, March Madness, the opening of Red Sox games, World Cup. Is a big deal. I mean, not World Cup, the soccer.
Yep.
The soccer games. And then July 4th is rolling around. Well, you can't keep beer indefinitely. And you got all these kegs and beer bottles and a bottle of beer all over the country. So you're backed up from the manufacturer, Budweiser, for example,
Mm-hmm.
all the way to the restaurant owner. So if your restaurant owner can't get rid of the beer somehow, it goes bad and has to be properly disposed of. If you're a retailer and you have bad beer, the distributor actually has to pick up that beer and properly dispose of that beer.
Right.
We have distributors with warehouses of beer and kegs, and we're not going to let people buy kegs and take it home. I mean,
Right.
I don't know what you do with a keg. Well, we do know what you do, but we're not going to talk about that. But I mean, you can picture, at the manufacturing side, they already manufactured, a lot of product in anticipation of Massachusetts, for example, having St. Patrick's,
Mm-hmm.
then followed by the marathon, then followed by March Madness and so forth. So as you can see, the economic challenge in Main Street's closure all the way back to the giant manufacturers.
Right.
Of course, this affects the craft beer guys too locally.
Yep.
Because the restaurants are having trouble moving stuff. They can't move the products off the shelves. And at some point, you can only buy so much with the changing economy at your home. So their industries are preparing also for a eventual reduction in sales as a result of the economy changing.
Sure. Do you agree with the closure of the recreational pot shops, Tacky, but keeping the medical dispensaries open at this time?
Yeah, this is obviously complicated. I mean, people know I'm not exactly the greatest supporter of legalized marijuana, but it is here. The governor is correct. people come from going to be coming from neighboring states to buy pot and bring over state lines, which, by the way, is against federal law, but, none of us are going to rat you out. And how do I know this? When I was in the marijuana committee, we visited medical marijuana facilities, and there were people lingering around medical marijuana facilities in the front. And we had a little chat with some of these folks, and they were not local; they were out-of-staters. And it's our neighboring states have not have supply. So not surprising, we do get a lot of state folks, which also adds to the whole social distancing and bringing people into roads, and also bringing potentially diseases back to their home state or bringing into the state. It's not just a localized issue. Medical marijuana shops, are open because just like pharmacies, people are required to, are not required, but they need to get their prescriptions filled. So my personal opinion is, I agree with the governor. It's going to create all kinds of new traffic in, out of state people coming in, and our people, perhaps, going out of state as well, and keep moving this disease around. This is an asymptomatic disease. Okay, what does that mean? You don't need to have symptoms to convey it.
Right.
Now the odds are higher if you sneeze in someone's face. It's higher if you're coughing into the air. It's much higher to contract. But if you're sharing a space with someone, like, let's just call it this. If you're sharing a space intimately, meaning you're very close to each other and you're breathing on each other because it's a respiratory disease, it comes out of your mouth and nose, the odds go up that you may pick it up.
Right.
So if you have contact with someone that's asymptomatic, the odds are pretty low that you're going to have it. But as a precaution, you probably should wash your hands and keep away from other family members, and perhaps wear a mask at home if you believe so. Because you may not contract any symptoms. You may be perfectly fine and be a carrier. And we've seen that with some of the athletes. Some of them, no symptoms, perfectly fine, but they're COVID-19 positive. Conversely, some people who are young and healthy can have severe symptoms. It's quite unpredictable.
Yes.
So, trying to limit people as much as possible to essential need is important. And the marijuana shops do not have the same economic impact as well because they're localized. As I said, the alcohol industry has a rural effect across the country. The restaurant industry, obviously people have to feed themselves. It's a whole different scenario. If you can explain to me why it's important for you to get high, I'm sure someone will tell me why it's that important to get high for them. It's not like, if you got glaucoma, you have a medical marijuana license. If you have cancer, you have medical marijuana prescription. So if it's not for one of those needs, if people want to make that argument, why they should, be under the influence of marijuana, go ahead. So, that's just my thoughts on the matter.
Sure.
I'm sure other people have to.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's what I asked you for. So, do you see any silver linings coming out of this situation, Tacky, in the future? Are there things that we're learning that we can take later on when this is over and expand on those? Do you think?
Well, I'm not gonna beat up anybody over this because it's not the time for it. So let me just express more concerns than criticism. For those who talk to me know that I do pay some attention outside of the city. I do watch news from around the world. I think it's very good for us not to watch cable TV news nonstop because it's not just about biases. It's just limitation of information. They won't really go in depth to talk about other parts of the world. YouTube and the internet lets us look at information from Germany and England and Singapore. There's plenty of English speaking. We don't have a second language. There's plenty of English speaking news media outside the United States. So as a result, when this broke out in China and it first left China in January, I'm like, oh, it's coming. It's a contagious disease that's similar to the COVID. It's an easy carry disease that you can asymptomatic that you don't know about. And I'm thinking, well, they won't take long to get here. And it did. We did have SARS funding. The CDC did provide the state a $5 million SARS grant back in 2003. I had suggested to Senator Warren, it's time for the CDC to provide grants again for states to conduct planning themselves regarding these type of potential pandemics. I think we are an international city. As a result, we do have a lot of traffic. If you look at the map on the planet of where the highest concentrations are, you're going to find out many of these locations are in major, dense urban areas with international airports.
Mm-hmm.
If you look, really, just go pull up on the internet and start looking around. I'm going to tell you, most of them will show they have international airports will travel all over the planet.
Look at what's happening in New York, yeah.
Yeah, the world's getting smaller as a result. So, we got to think more proactively about this kind of stuff. And, I kind of see this. We should have a task force later on when we get to the end of this cycle, and perhaps we should have MEMA have a healthcare task force set up for these type of situations, building off of 2003 SARS. In the last 20 years, we looked at SARS, avian flu, swine flu. We have Ebola. We have various ones of H1N1. We had MERS. And mad cow is a little special because that came out of England regarding a different issue.
Yeah.
But we've had at least 3 COVID-related viruses. I mean, SARS, COVID-19, Ebola, and MERS. Actually, 4 of them are actually coronavirus relatives. They're all from the same branch. And as I like to say, this is COVID-19 is SARS' angrier brother, is what we got. It's the angrier version because unlike SARS, which kills you faster, this one spreads much more prolifically than SARS did.
Yeah.
Which other respiratory issue. So, we got to really think this. And also, I was talking to Secretary Sutters on the conference calls. She's right. We have to reevaluate our manufacturing. And watching Bloomberg News, business news, you're going to see a huge shift globally in all countries regarding their diversification manufacturing. So as we learned the hard lesson, and not just us, but Japan and European countries and all the Korea and everybody else, that if you concentrate all your manufacturing in one location because it's cheap, well, and that place shuts down not because of war or a natural disaster, but because of this long-term medical crises, you lose supply. And the Chinese government found out because they themselves couldn't supply enough, and we need supplies out of them. And things, commerce ground to a halt. And Europeans and Americans shipping medical supplies into China because they needed it. And now all of us are manufacturing heavily, and now because China's back online, we're trying to get stuff out of China, but our manufacturing has slowed down a bit because of the virus, and especially Europe, as you all see in the news. So, there's a need for massive diversification of it, medical supplies and other types of medical equipment, not just masks, because I know that gets all the news, and all the ventilators, but, gloves, gowns, antiseptics, hospital needs at the local level. So I think that's kind of what we have to look at, and also continue to invest in a vaccine. We stopped looking at a vaccine for SARS back in 2004 because it never appeared again. They only had spot appearances after 2 waves of SARS. And suddenly we think, we're in the clear, we don't have to spend money in research. Well, the government really needs to reevaluate that. And we are the biotech capital of the planet, and we're better situated in other parts of the world in terms of healthcare, addressing healthcare crises. And I think the state and the federal government really should start looking at these proactive steps as well as making future investments. And I know people don't hate the idea of spending tax dollars, but this is tax dollars for your future health, not just making money for somebody else.
Sure.
And private sector guys may not want to invest in this because why would they? Because if the pandemic passes, the need's not there. But it doesn't mean that we couldn't look into the future and continue the research required into this stuff. So I'm going to make some suggestions to the Speaker's office about that as this kind of unfolds. And I got a few ideas. But the world's a big place. And like I said, I encourage everybody to go on the internet and start looking at news from Singapore, because I use CNA because they speak English. You look at the BBC and Channel 4 in England. You look at DW in Germany. There's plenty of English media outside the United States. And if you watch a diverse number of them, you can kind of form a picture of what the world's looking like.
Sure. Ways for folks to get a hold of you, Tacky, if they'd like to ask you some questions or get more information?
Sure, you always call the office still and leave voicemail for any of the staff members at 617-722-2014, 617-722-2014. You can reach me by email at, tacky, tackey.chan at mahouse.gov. My email is flooding, not just the constituent itself, but also conference call appointments, as well as updates from various service agencies and government agencies and whatnot. So we're doing us filtering it out. But I do advise you can also look at my website at www.tackychan.org. So remember, it's a .org, my name.org. We've been trying to post summaries of the press conferences by the governor and human resource information, as well as my Tacky Chan state representative, State Representative Tacky Chan Facebook account, which we've all been trying to update regularly. We're trying not to flood because too much COVID-19 information becomes hard on the mind. So we're trying to keep just the essential information from the city and the state and anything from the feds as we get it, and trying to get it up there.
Mm-hmm.
It is a public website and a public Facebook site. You do not have to join Facebook to look at my Facebook.
Okay.
It is public, so you can take a look. But please obviously give us a call. Drop us an email. Social media communication is hard because of the way Facebook sets up. You drop a comment, the feed goes down 5 steps.
Yeah.
The notification is not always clear on our end, and I've had Facebook messages, like literally Facebook user, and the message is gone like 2 days later.
Okay.
I have no idea what happened to it.
Yeah.
So people have come on, come off, change accounts, deleted on their side. I have no idea. I hate social media. Everyone knows I hate social media. So
okay. Best to go to the source, as they always say.
I love it. Oh, I left you a comment. I'm like, where? And it's like, well, your post in this past December. I'm like, but it's now April.
Yeah, best to reach out directly to you through your official sites. Makes more sense. And your office also provided some information from the Attorney General's office to report scammers, and that number is 617-727-8400. So folks can call 617-727-8400 if they have been scammed or if they are aware of a scam, to report it to the Attorney General's office.
And we're tracking those too. Like there's a state police scam with them visiting your home. That is also a scam regarding them coming in to fumigate your home from COVID-19. That is not true. Like I said, they're kind of appearing everywhere. Like price gouging is an issue. We've been contacted by eBay, and we're going to hear from others as we go along about them trying to clamp down on price gouging on essential goods and services. So we're trying to keep up. And once again, if you have a brick and mortar, a local store that can deliver, that's an essential service, so it's like a grocery, a restaurant, a pharmacy, please do try to use local if you can. And some of these businesses may have changed hours. Right. So my website puts up some information. My Facebook site put up some information. But I strongly advise everyone make a phone call, and leave a message. Some may have messaging machines, some may not, to find out if it's open before you leave your house.
Yes, good advice.
Please do. Yep. Call in advance before you leave. You don't want to go out there unnecessarily with potential exposure of other people, and the place is not open.
Sure.
Please wear your mask correctly. Cover your nose. I've seen this happen. People only wear, bottom half of the mouth. It's a respiratory disease. It comes out of your lungs.
Yes.
Proper wearing a mask, and you're going to wear gloves. Please take home your gloves. Channel 5 News last night. I watch a lot of Channel 5. Channel 5 News last night reported people throwing their gloves on the floor. I've seen it too in the parking lots. Do not litter. I don't know why we litter. I have a real issue of litter. So please bring home your trash, or if you're concerned, put a plastic bag or some kind of container in your bag you can wash or whatever, and bring it home in proper disposal. Take it outside to your trash bin. You want to bring it to the house, use the trash bin outdoors.
Yep.
We use another trash bin inside the store or anywhere else. So please do proper wearing your mask. If you don't have a mask, wear a scarf and bandana. That's fine too. And if you don't have surgical gloves, because medical supplies should go to doctors first, unless you have some immune compromised issues, severely, possible exposure could, lead to serious health problems. You can wear winter gloves, driving gloves, leather gloves, something you can wash when you get home. You can wear your leather gloves, pick up your groceries or other products if you're very concerned. Go home, get some soap and water or wipes, and just kind of gently, wash your gloves off. Obviously, if it's leather or suede, you have to do proper care for those items. And you can wear your winter gloves, and if something you can put into the wash, or you just go put your sink, definitely do it. But wash your hands, wash your face, because obviously there's respiratory disease. And if you do wear a mask, please be aware that social distancing still does help. Air comes in through the sides of your mask. It keeps your germs to you. It doesn't keep germs always out unless you have a seal around your face. And if you ever try to wear a mask that's sealed, it is very hard to breathe.
Yes.
Um,
Anything else, Jackie? Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me here, Joe. And we'll try to schedule this again, and we can obviously talk about this issue and any other topics that comes to mind.
Great. Yeah, please reach out. We're happy to help you get the word out, and we'll hopefully do it in face-to-face real soon.
I would really love to do face-to-face, so you don't have to see my dining room.
Well, thanks again, and thank your mom for her patience. Go have lunch now.
Absolutely. You be safe, be well, and just keep an eye out for everyone. That's all.
Thanks, Jackie. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.